Good morning, everybody. The New Jersey Educational Facilities Authority gave notice of the time, place, and date of this meeting by email on June 18th, 2024 to the Star Ledger, the Times of Trenton, the Secretary of State, and by posting the notice at the offices of the authority in Princeton, New Jersey, and on the authority's website. Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act, a resolution must be passed by the New Jersey Educational Facilities Authority in order to hold a session from which the public is excluded. Cheryl, would you please read the roll?
Josh Hodis,
Yes.
Richie Hutchinson,
Yes.
Luis Rodriguez,
Here.
Ryan Feeney,
Here.
Angela Bethia representing Dr. Bridges.
Yes.
We also have on the call this morning, Sam Kovac-Orr from the Governor's Authorities Unit, Brian McGarry, and I believe I saw Bernard Davis from the Attorney General's office. We have Steve Nelson, Ellen Yang, Brian Sitkus, Carl McDonald, and Rebecca Crespo from the authority. From Fairleigh Dickinson University, we have Frank Barra, Senior Vice President and Chief Financial Officer. And I also saw Catherine Vanilla, Associate Vice President for Finance of Fairleigh Dickinson. Also, on the Fairleigh Dickinson matter, we have John Cavalier from McManaman, Scotland, Bauman. We also have Aaron Ortiz, Managing Director of Janney Montgomery Scott as Financial Advisor to Fairleigh Dickinson. We also have regarding the Princeton University and the Montclair State University bond sales. This morning, we have John Stevenson, who is the head of higher education and nonprofits from Goldman Sachs and Company. I believe I got everybody there. So with that, I think you're good to go, Josh.
Great, thank you. Now I'd like to ask everyone to please turn to tab 1 for an approval of the minutes of the May 28th, 2024 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So move, Louis.
Louis moves, thank you. I will second. Cheryl, please read the roll.
Josh Hodis,
Yes.
Richie Hutchinson,
Yes.
Luis Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ryan Feeney,
Yes.
Angela Bethia,
Yes.
all in favor.
Great, thank you. I'd now like to ask Cheryl to please provide the executive director's report.
It is a quick report this morning, Josh. Just one matter I wanted to update the board on. You'll recall that at the authority's March 26th meeting, the board approved the final proposal for new office space for the authority at 5 Bond Drive in Princeton. The board at that time also authorized certain staff to negotiate the final terms of the lease and execute same when it was ready. Since that March meeting, the authority has worked hand in hand with the Attorney General's office on the lease negotiations with the Landlord's Council and the authority's broker, Fennelly Associates. We have made a great deal of progress. I believe that the lease itself is in near final form. And I would hope to be able to execute same within the next 1 to 2 weeks. Once that happens, we'll have a more definitive sense of timing on the office move at the end of the year. And we've already, begun and we'll move forward at that point with more preparations internally for that move. So I just, also want to thank the Attorney General's office. Particularly Brian, who's on the call this morning, Brian McGarry, for all the work to get us to the point where we are today. So I'll continue to update you as things develop. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Cheryl. Louis, you have a question?
Yeah, the lease will start when you move in.
So we haven't executed it yet. We're getting close. That's the update. And once we do execute the lease, we will have a more definite sense of timing on the move.
Yeah.
We will be moving in, and I'll be reporting back to the board on that.
No, my question was that the lease will begin at the end in December, sometime at the end of the year when you move in. When we move.
That's the plan. That date is a little bit of a moving target right now until we, get all of the, all the terms finalized. But, that is the plan.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Louis. Thanks, Cheryl. Any other questions for Cheryl? Okay, thanks again, Cheryl. Now I'd like to ask everyone to turn to tab 2, please, for a resolution of the New Jersey Educational Facilities Authority amending its bylaws. I'd like to ask Cheryl to please introduce the resolution.
Thanks again, Josh. Internally, we have been, reviewing the bylaws and various areas that we believe should be updated. And the resolution before you today reflects on that review. It authorizes amending Article 3 of the authority's bylaws, specifically sections 1, 6, 12, and 13, with respect to 4 different areas. 1, the first proposed amendment formally adds the assistant treasurer as an officer of the officer position of the authority and sets forth the assistant treasurer's role and responsibilities. The assistant treasurer may perform the duties conferred upon the treasurer, but will not serve as a member of the finance committee, the evaluation committee, or the audit committee, and shall not be authorized to sign checks drawn from the authority's operating fund. And that is all consistent with the role of the assistant treasurer today. So just to clarify, at the main meeting, our annual meeting every year, the board does appoint or elect an assistant treasurer, but it's not a recognized position within the bylaws themselves. And so we felt that from a formality standpoint, and looking at how other authorities handle that position, that it would be prudent to make that an officially recognized officer position within the bylaws. The second proposed amendment clarifies that the 1-year term of service for the officers and the members of the finance committee, the audit committee, and the evaluation committee shall continue to serve until successors have been duly elected. The third amendment, well, before I get to the third amendment, the last one where they should serve until successors have been duly elected. That's really a protective measure to ensure that, we are able to have continued continuity and governance of the authority should the annual meeting be delayed and new officers not be elected. So it's really a protective measure for the authority and the function of the board. The third proposed amendment increases the amount of the executive director's contractual authority. By resolution adopted in April of 2000, the board amended the bylaws to authorize the executive director to contract on behalf of the authority in an amount not to exceed $50,000. To account for 24 years of inflation and to increase operating efficiencies, the attached resolution authorizes increasing the amount to $100,000. The purpose of that, besides updating it to, reflect inflation and increases in operating cost, is because within the last probably 6 months to a year, we have encountered a few situations where, in particular for professional services, where the authority has budgeted for those services, and the dollar amount of those services has come very close to the $50,000 limitation. So we think it's prudent at this time to increase that authorization, again, to account for the 24 years of inflation and increase in operating expenses. The fourth proposed amendment increases the amount of checks requiring dual signatures. By resolution adopted in April of 2007, the board amended the bylaws to require that any check drawn against the authority's operating fund in excess of $30,000 must be signed by any 2 of the following officers: the treasurer, the chair, and the executive director. Similarly to the contracting authorization, this provision or this proposed amendment is to account for 17 years of inflation and again to increase operating efficiencies, and the attached resolution authorizes increasing the amount to $60,000. once again, you know, we have bills that come in for payment through the operating account, particularly in the financial services area, that relate to the Attorney General's office, to bond counsel, to financial advisors and so on, that are coming very close to the current $30,000 mark or going over, and that requires us to send that check out to the chair or other authorized individual to dual sign that check. We know that in the new lease that we're going to be entering into for office space, that within a couple of years, that our monthly lease or rent check will exceed 30,000. So we know that at least on a monthly basis, that'll be the case. So we are recommending increasing that amount to 60,000. I believe that all of the amendments and a red line of those amendments was included in your board package, which you received pursuant to the bylaws 5 days in advance of the
Guppy Hill vinyl siding.
in advance of the board meeting. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Again, Cheryl, any questions for Cheryl? Hearing none, resolution of the New Jersey Educational Facilities Authority amending its bylaws. I'd like to request a motion approving the resolution.
So moved, Angela.
Thank you, Angela. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Great, thank you. Cheryl, please read the roll.
Josh Hodis,
Yes.
Ridgely Hutchinson,
Yes.
Luis Rodriguez,
Yes,
Ryan Feeney,
yes,
Angela Bethia,
Yes.
all in favor.
Great, thank you. Now I'd like to ask everyone to please turn to tab 3 for resolution of the New Jersey Educational Facilities Authority acknowledging and accepting the state treasurer's recommendation and electing a representative to the audit committee. I'd like to ask Cheryl to please give the report.
Thanks again, Josh. The authority's bylaws provide that the audit committee will consist of 3 members: the state treasurer, the authority's treasurer, and a member of the authority with significant financial experience. At the authority's annual meeting last month in May, Ridgely Hutchinson was again elected to the audit committee as a member of the authority with significant financial experience. Since the state treasurer was elected to also serve as the authority's treasurer, this means there are currently only 2 members of the audit committee, the treasurer and Ridgely Hutchinson. Under such circumstances, the bylaws provide that the state treasurer may make a recommendation for a 3rd committee member. With a request through the chair to the state treasurer's office, the state treasurer has provided a recommendation of David Moore to serve as the 3rd member of the audit committee. And this resolution accepts the state treasurer's recommendation of David Moore, director from the Office of Public Finance, to be appointed as the 3rd member of the audit committee. Happy to answer any questions.
Great, thanks, Cheryl. Any questions for Cheryl? Hearing none, resolution of the New Jersey Educational Facilities Authority acknowledging and accepting the state treasurer's recommendation and electing a representative to the audit committee. I'd like to request a motion approving the resolution.
so moved,
Is there a second?
second, Louis.
Thank you. Cheryl, please read the roll.
Josh Hodis,
Yes.
Ridgely Hutchinson,
Yes.
Luis Rodriguez,
Yes,
Ryan Feeney,
yes,
Angela Bethia,
Yes.
all in favor.
Great, thank you. Now I'd like to ask everyone to please turn to tab 4 for a resolution of the New Jersey Educational Facilities Authority authorizing an amendment to a certain bond agreement executed in connection with a bond issued by the authority on behalf of Fairleigh Dickinson University. I'd like to ask Carl to please introduce the resolution.
Thank you, Josh. Today, the members are being asked to approve a resolution authorizing a covenant amendment to the revenue and refunding bond Fairleigh Dickinson University issue 2021 Series A in the original principal amount of $63,785,000. The purchaser, TD Bank, and the university have agreed to amend a certain provision of the bond agreement related to this transaction. The members have previously approved resolutions authorizing amendments to the bond agreement for this transaction on 2 previous occasions. The first being on May 23rd, 2023, the members approved the first amendment to the bond agreement so that the debt service coverage ratio it would be tested annually beginning with the fiscal year ending June 30, 2024. This amendment also stated the university would be required to maintain a minimum unrestricted liquidity level tested annually of not less than 90 million for the fiscal years ending June 30, 2023 and June 30, 2024 until compliance with the debt service coverage ratio is confirmed for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2024. On January 23rd, 2024, earlier this year, the members approved the second amendment to the bond agreement so that aggregate lease payments as defined in section 522 would not exceed $10 million in any fiscal year or any such other amount as the borrower and the purchaser mutually agree to in writing upon notice to the authority. The university and the purchaser have further agreed to a third amendment to the bond agreement with respect to the implementation of the debt service coverage ratio, so that this covenant would be tested annually beginning with the fiscal year ending June 30, 2025. The amendment also states the university would be required to maintain an unrestricted liquidity level tested annually of not less than 90 million for the fiscal years ending June 30, 2024 and June 30, 2025 until compliance with the debt service coverage ratio is confirmed for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2025. McManaman, Scotland, and Bauman served as bond counsel to the authority for this amendment. I would now like to invite John Cavalier to formally present the resolution following Mr. Cavalier's presentation. If there's any members have any questions, either myself, John, or Frank Barra from Fairleigh Dickinson will be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Carl. Good morning, everyone. The resolution before you authorizes the execution and delivery of a third amendment to the original bond agreement, which was entered into on February 24, 2021, and is binding among the authority, Fairleigh Dickinson University, and TD Bank. The bond agreement was executed in connection with the authority's 2021 Series A bonds issued on behalf of the university. The third amendment to bond agreement revises certain terms of the university's financial covenants as described by Carl in detail. The resolution authorizes certain officers of the authority to execute and deliver the third amendment and such other documents as may be necessary in order to effectuate the resolution. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to address them. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Carl. Any questions? Thanks. Resolution of the New Jersey Educational Facility Authority authorizing an amendment to a certain bond agreement executed in connection with the bond issued by the authority on behalf of Fairleigh Dickinson University. I'd like to request the motion approving the resolution.
So move, Louis.
Thanks, Louis. I will second. Cheryl, please read the roll.
Josh Hodis,
Yes.
Ridgely Hutchinson,
Yes.
Louis Rodriguez,
Yes.
Brian Feeney,
yes,
Angela Bethia,
yes,
all in favor.
Great, thank you. Thanks to Fairleigh Dickinson University. I'd like to ask everyone to please turn to tab 5 for a report on the sale of NJEFA revenue bonds, Princeton University issue 2024 Series A1 and 2024 Series A2. NJEFA revenue bonds, Princeton University issue 2024 Series B, and NJEFA revenue refunding bonds, Princeton University issue 2024 C. And I'd like to ask Steve to please give the report.
Thank you, Josh. The authority successfully closed 3 series of new money and refunding bonds on behalf of Princeton University, including its new money Series A and B bonds and its C bonds to refund the authority's 2014 Series A bonds. The 3 series of bonds totaled nearly $1.5 billion in par amount and set 2 records for the authority's single largest transactions. The Series A bonds were sold in 2 tranches, A1 and A2. The A1 bonds have a par amount of $423.1 million with an all-in true interest cost of 2.72% and a final maturity of March 1st, 2037. The A2 bonds have a par amount of $386.1 million with an all-in true interest cost of $370 and a final maturity of March 1st, 2043. The bonds were priced on a competitive basis on February 28th and closed on March 6th. BofA Securities was the winning bidder of the A1 bonds, and JP Morgan was the winning bidder on the A2 bonds. The university's Series B and C bonds, which were negotiated, were priced on February 21st and were senior managed by Goldman Sachs, with BofA serving as co-senior manager. and Morgan Stanley, Ramirez, Siebert, Williams, Schenck, and Luke serving as the 4 co-managers. The Series B bonds have a par amount of $500 million and achieved a true interest cost of 4.34% and have a final maturity of March 1st, 2054. The Series C bonds have a par amount of $158.6 million and achieved a true interest cost of 3.49% and have a final maturity of March 1st, 2044. The Series C refunding bonds had net present value savings of $14.6 million, or 8.44% of the refunded bond amount. The Series B bonds closed on March 6th, along with the Series A bonds, and the Series C bonds closed on April the 3rd. The bonds are rated AAA by Moody's and by S&P, and other financing professionals included Eckert Siemens, who served as bond counsel, and the Yuba Group, who served as financial advisor to the university. As Cheryl announced, John Stevenson from Goldman Sachs is on the line. Goldman Sachs senior managed the Series B and C bonds, and I invite John to say a few words about the financing. John?
Great. Well, thank you, Steve, and good morning. And first, I just want to say thank you to the board for the opportunity to serve as senior manager on the Series B and the Series C bonds for Princeton University. Just a wonderful transaction overall. As Steve noted, I believe this was the largest these transactions in the NJEFA's history. And based on our records, I believe they're one of the top 5 largest private university transactions of all time. So a very significant transaction for Princeton and for the NJEFA, of course. Certainly a great team effort to get this all done. As Steve noted, a number of parties were instrumental in accomplishing these goals. And again, just a great result for the university, and pleased to work with the NJEFA and the entire group on the transactions. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, John. Any questions for authority staff or John? Okay, hearing none. Josh?
Thank you. Thanks, John. Thanks, Steve. Very exciting. Top 5 is something you don't hear very often. So thanks for making us aware of that. And it's very impressive. So thanks to you, John, to Steve, the staff, and Princeton, first and foremost, for continuing to come to the authority for their needs. It's truly an honor. Thank you. Now I'd like to ask everyone to please turn to tab 6 for a report on the sale of NJEFA revenue refunding bonds, Montclair State University issue series 2024A. And I'd like to please ask Rebecca to give the report.
Thanks, Josh. On April 3rd, the authority closed its $159,430,000 Montclair State University Series 2024A issue. The bonds were issued to pay the cost of refunding all of the principal, sinking fund installment, and/or interest requirements in respect of the authority's outstanding revenue bonds, Montclair State University issue Series 2014A, maturing on and after July 1st, 2025. Also to pay the cost of refunding all of the principal, sinking fund, installment, and interest requirements in respect of the authority's outstanding revenue bonds, Bloomfield College and Seminary issue 2013 Series A. And also to pay the cost of refunding all of the outstanding principal balances of 2 outstanding bank loans, and finally to pay the cost of issuing the Series 2024A bonds. The bonds were priced on March 21st and senior managed by Goldman Sachs, with Ramirez and Truist Securities serving as co-managers. The Series 2024A bonds achieved a true interest cost of 3.72% and have a final maturity of July 1st, 2044. The bonds had a net present value savings of $26,054,261, or 14.69% of the refunded bonds. The bonds were rated A2 by Moody's and A+ by Fitch. Other financing professionals included Dilworth Paxson, who served as bond counsel, and First Trine Advisors, who served as financial advisor to the university. I will now ask John Stevenson from Goldman, who senior managed the university's financing, to say a few words about the transaction.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, Rebecca. And again, thank you to the authority for the opportunity to serve as senior manager on the Montclair State University transaction, which I believe we priced just about a month after the Princeton transaction, with Montclair pricing in late March. This was actually Montclair State University's first public markets bond issue since 2016. So a really nice opportunity to reintroduce the university to the public capital markets, and certainly a nice result in terms of generating great present value savings on the refunding for the university. So really pleased with the result. And, as with Princeton, a wonderful team to work with. And again, thank you to the authority for the opportunity both here on Montclair State and on Princeton. Really excited to have had the opportunity this winter to work with both institutions and with the authority. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, John. If the members have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them at this time.
Great. Thanks, Rebecca. And thank you, John. Moving on. I'd like to ask everyone to please turn to tab 7 for a report on operating and construction fund statements and disbursements. And I'd like to ask Brian to please give the report for May 2024.
Thank you, Josh. The authority concluded May with a year-to-date net operating income in the amount of $1.4 million based on year-to-date revenues of $2.5 million and expenses of $1.1 million. Year-to-date revenues were $464,000 more than projected due to an increase in initial fees related to a higher number of bond series closing and due to the timing of investment income. Operating expenditures for the first 5 months of the year were under budget by $417,000, primarily due to the timing of expenditures.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions for Brian? Hearing none, I'd like to request a motion accepting his report.
So moved, Angela.
Thanks, Angela. I'll second it. Cheryl, please read the roll.
Josh Otis,
Yes.
Richie Hutchinson,
Yes.
Luis Rodriguez,
Yes.
Brian Feeney,
Yes.
Angela Bethia,
Yes.
all in favor.
Great, thank you. I'd like to remind everybody that our next regularly scheduled meeting is on Tuesday, July 23rd, and that meetings will continue to be conducted via Zoom until further notice. I'd like to request a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Rich, I will second. Cheryl, please read the roll.
Josh Otis,
Yes.
Richie Hutchinson, Luis Rodriguez,
Yes.
Brian Feeney,
Yes.
Angela Bethia.
Yes.
Great, thanks, everybody. Meeting adjourned.